Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Going blank. That's such an important part of expansion and the experience of expansion. I often say that when you kind of go beyond your mind, you can have absolute clarity and absolute insight, but you have no idea what it is about. And it's important that we learn to stay in that state, because when we understand, we have already defined, we've already created a narrative, because the concept of human understanding is definition plus narrative. You define it and then you create the story of what it is for. So create a false context. So when we study spiritual principles and when we get in touch with something, and we say, I got to understand this, we begin defining based on what we already understand. And then we create the storyline. And then we have the understanding. As I explained, because we filter so much, when we create these definitions and understandings and all of that, it's happening in the past. Because it goes through so many layers of filtering. You can go through, whenever you have something in your past that you've not resolved, the signals and the pulses from the absolute now will have to go back to the point where it all starts for you. Remember that your narratives can be built over billions of years. You can just build and build and build and build. When you have created an assumption and it has not been corrected because, you don't want to, it will stay there. When you have pain points and experience of suffering in the past that you're not yet resolved, that will be an active part of how you filter the here and now. So you can have billion upon billions of different points in your past, creating this whole experience of the now. As long as they have not resolved, they are active. So think of the now first having to be filtered through, going back, to your first experience as a plankton or, bacteria or something, and whatever shock and trauma you experience there that you've not yet resolved. And he goes through all of it until you have created the premise of how you perceive reality and how you build it. And then the context and narratives and all of that you create. And then you have those signals and what's left of them, and then you create whatever it is you can control. And then you say, now I understand it all. Learning a new language, for instance, is easier when you're a child because you're blank. When you have learned one language, the language you grew up with, your mind will use that as a filter when learning a new language. So instead of learning that language, you will learn it through the template and the filter of your kind of mother tongue. So we have to first translate it, interpret it, and figure out, where are the differences? And then you have to learn from that instead of learning it directly. It's filtering, 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 filtering. And the more we filter, the further away from the here and now we get. The further away from truth we get. So most people, as we get older, we get slower, more sluggish. We don't adapt. It's not because we are not able to, but because we have accumulated so much And that's just one lifetime. Just think of the layers of filters that we have accumulated through our whole existence. And it's all crap. It's all resistance. That's what it is. What we're left with as filters is basically when we have decided, nah, I'll stick with my map, thank you very much. And we insist, and then we move on. We simply decide that, no, I will stick with this resistance for now. And the only way to dissolve it is, of course, to let go of resistance. That's what healing is about. And that's how we also move closer to the here and now. Why is it so important for humans to believe that they can understand? I've explained this as a part of hierarchy, as part of survival. That, the ones who control the narrative, who controls truth, they are in power because they basically control God. So it's all of that. But at the same time, when we are working with ourselves, we don't only have to set ourselves free from religion, which is organized belief systems. We have to set ourselves free from the concept of understanding. Because every time we understand something, we don't. So, the thing is, when we filter the here and now with a tiny, tiny fraction of it that we can relate to through our own system, we're left with something, and that's already way behind the here and now. It's so funny sometimes how people sometimes, they come to me and they play this power game, especially men do that, as we know. Men in modern spirituality can be a pain in the ass because a lot of them have problems going beyond the male ego, which is so hierarchical. And sometimes I can see they really found how to kind of nail me to the wall, but say, you still have a lot to learn, ha. And I said, yes, I have everything to learn every single second from scratch all over again. That's the whole point. A high level of consciousness simply means that you've learned how to adapt to the here and now much faster. You have less resistance because you have less stuff in your past. In fact, you don't have a past anymore. And therefore, you don't have a future. Because your future is only your past. And the part of it you've not yet resolved because of your resistance. When that's gone, there is only the here and now left and your ability to adapt to it immediately. But this is the thing, you don't understand anything. Because it's not necessary. Understanding can never comprise reality. It can never comprise the actual here and now and the completeness of recalibration. It's not possible. So you move beyond knowledge and understanding because that's too primitive. It simply belongs to the horizontal survival and the power games and the hierarchy. And that's it. You don't need it. Because knowledge and understanding belongs to the mental and the emotional part of you, and sometimes even the social, but it's not, it's not important. So what happens when you skip that part? When you don't try to understand? For the human brain, this is difficult. But once you get it, it's duh, because you simply become it. There is nothing to understand. You move into a state of absolute adaptability. You don't hold on to anything, because the moment you do, you're not in the here and now anymore. You have to be in a complete and unstopping reinvention that never stops. So yes, you learn everything from scratch every moment.